Hey guys, it's Scarlet Stars, and today we're talking about the news surrounding the Plants vs Zombies board game that has just dropped, and to say the least, it is pretty exciting. The tabletop company Mantic Games has just put up a Kickstarter page for Plants vs Zombies the board game in partnership with PopCap. This will be released in autumn of this year. There's been a page put up on the Mantic Games website that describes it. Now, it's pretty vague as to how it actually works, but it is said to be, quote, a fast-paced cooperative tabletop game for 1 to 4 players that captures all the comedy and chaos of the iconic Plants vs Zombies franchise. Players must work together to outsmart hilarious and horrifying zombie hordes by growing defensive lines of precious plants to protect the homestand. Featuring iconic Plants vs Zombies plants like pea shooters, cherry bombs, and walnuts. Players must plan their defense wisely to stop the zombies and their traps. So essentially it's saying it's a co-op board game that is relatively similar to the original Tower Defense, but in tabletop form. Honestly, from the way they're describing it, it sounds more like a video game than a board game, which I guess kind of makes sense, but I am concerned about how the board game will actually play. Obviously, I'm not a huge tabletop game player, but I'm still interested to see how this would turn out in practice. What interests me the most is how they chose to make it a co-op board game and not a competitive one. I always imagined a PvZ board game as players each getting their own houses to defend with plant cards and having to invade each other's houses with zombie cards. You know, sort of similar to PvZ2 China's take on versus mode, if any of you are familiar with that. What I'm most excited about is the miniatures, which, if you don't know, Mantic Games is very well known for their high quality tabletop games involving miniatures like Halo, Flashpoint, and Kings of War. As someone who has been a die-hard PvZ fan for as long as I can remember, I would kill for PvZ figurines as high quality as these. Yeah, there have been unofficial PvZ figurines, but honestly most of them are really as quality as you can get from knockoffs. Considering the absolute dumpster fire that has been official in-game content for the last eternity, this is definitely a well-earned breath of fresh air. Another thing I am interested in seeing is the Zen Garden campaign, which is mentioned down here. The only thing said about it is that it includes difficulty scaling and an extra challenge, and that's really it. Not much else to be said here, but I guess we're gonna have to wait until this board game is actually available. Now, a little fun fact, this is not actually PopCap's first rodeo in attempting to sell a PvZ board game. They made PvZ Risk all the way back in 2013. It is basically just a PvZ themed version of the tabletop game Risk, where you have to play against players to capture all the locations on the board. It also comes with a separate board game that is similar to the original Tower Defense. I don't know much about it, and I unfortunately don't own the board game, but it obviously wasn't a massive sensation, as I don't think it's still being made. Also in 2012, there was also a cancelled Plants vs Zombies tabletop game that just would have been based off the Tower Defense. You'd have like some plant cards and you had to defend 3 lanes where your friend would attack with zombie cards. Unfortunately, this never came out, and it's just stuck in the experimental era of PvZ. So yeah, PopCap just decided to stick with video games and graphic novels until now. But honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this turns out. Again, I'm not exactly the biggest tabletop game player. However, I used to be really into stuff like Magic the Gathering and start a small card collection. Also, I find the idea of collecting miniatures really cool. I might get into that if this board game is any good. So when this game comes out, hopefully it does, hopefully it doesn't get cancelled. I'll try to see if I can get it, but yeah, that's everything. Take care, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, dislike if you dislike, and I'll see you next time.